Okay, so we are starting a new unit now. This unit is over area and perimeter of all these figures that we've learned about already. So I would recommend, you guys should have a note sheet to go along with this right now. I would either take that note sheet and fold it over, like you're gonna glue one side into your notebook so you could like open it up. And on the blank side, when you fold it over, I'd write all the area formulas that we're gonna cover here in just a few minutes. Or you could just, in your notebook somewhere, put area formulas and then list all of them as we go. But do like designate a place where you put all the formulas of the areas of parallelogram, trapezoid, triangle, rhombus, kite, all that, okay? Okay, so we're going to start with area of a parallelogram. So you guys should know the area formula for a rectangle, and it's basically the same thing with a parallelogram because it's basically just a slanted rectangle, right? So if we, area of a rectangle, which would just be base times height, right? If we take this and we kind of like draw a line right there, and we take this triangle part of it and we just move it over there, just kind of repositioning some parts, it basically is just a rectangle, okay? So our area formula for a parallelogram is simply area equals base times the height. So on your little formula chart that you're making, wherever, I would put area of parallelogram and then write this formula, equals base times height, okay? Okay, so a little side note here, the height of a parallelogram is the perpendicular distance between the two parallel sides. So the hardest part with finding area of a parallelogram is typically finding the height. So I have a lot of kids mistakenly go, okay, here's my base, and then they count this as the height. That's not the height, okay? The height would be if you find that perpendicular distance between the two bases, which typically you'll probably draw that height right here because you could find that using properties of triangles, okay? But yeah, height would be, it could be out here that you find it, anywhere over here, but typically you'll do it maybe like right there or here, since you can use your knowledge of triangles to find the height. Okay, so let's try one here. This is the first example on your note sheet. It says find the area of the parallelogram. I would always start with writing the formula. So area equals base times height. So I know to find my area, I need two things, the base and the height. So let's look at it. Do we have either of those? Yes, we do. My base is going to be this length right here. Sometimes they'll give it to you up here. Either of those can count as your base, okay? So I know I'm doing 12 times my height. So that's what I have to find right here. So if we look at this as a right triangle, it is, since this is a 90-degree angle, a special right triangle, 45, 45, 90. Do we know any part of that triangle? I don't know this portion. Obviously, I don't know the height. Now, if you look at this side, this is 9. It's going to be the same on this side because opposite sides in a parallelogram are congruent. Okay, so you got to remember your properties of special right triangles. To go from the hypotenuse to the leg, you guys should know we divide by root 2, right? So if we knew the leg, we would multiply by root 2 to get our hypotenuse. But to go in reverse, we divide by root 2. So that height is going to equal our hypotenuse, 9, divided by root 2. And then we just simplify. Multiply by root 2 over root 2. So my height equals 9 root 2 over 2. And I can't simplify that any. So it's just kind of weird looking, but that's okay. All right, so once you have your height, you can plug it into the area formula. So area equals base times height. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's go ahead and put that, base times height, which equals my base, which is 12, times my height, which is this thing I just found. And from there, you just got to simplify, okay? So we can multiply 12 times 9 right there, which gives us 108. So, I mean, if you want, you can put this over 1 and just think, okay, multiply numerators, multiply denominators. So we get 108 root 2 all over 2. And then we can actually simplify this a little bit, divide that out, so we end up with 54 root 2. That would be an exact answer. Of course, in my answer right here, we've got the units here, square units. They don't give us units, so we can just write units squared or square units. Now, if they wanted a rounded answer, you would just type in 54 root 2, press enter into your calculator, and it'll give you a decimal. All right, why don't you guys go ahead and try this one. So pause this, try it on your own, just to jot it down somewhere off to the side. See how you do. Okay, I'm going to reveal the answer. Correct answer is, now it does say find perimeter and area. Correct answer is B. Now the perimeter we haven't talked much about. I'm assuming we know how to add numbers together, and usually it's that easy. So perimeter, you're just adding these four sides together. For the area part, you can write out your formula. Now if you got the answer right and you're good, you can fast forward a little bit, but I'm going to work through it real quick. Area equals base times height because it's a parallelogram. Okay, do I have my base? I typically look at this. Well, it's the same as this one, so 27. Now I gotta find my height because they don't give it to me. I don't know if this is a special right triangle. It doesn't look like it is, but I do know two sides of it, so I can do a little Pythagorean theorem. So we could do off to the side 8 squared plus, let's call that h. H squared equals 17 squared. Okay. If you simplify all of that, this would be 64 plus h squared equals 289. Subtracting from both sides, we get h squared equals 225, and if you take the square root, you get a perfect square. Our height is 15 meters. We do have units here. So plugging that in right here, you're just doing 27 times 15, and that's how you get that 405. Okay, great job. Let's see what else we got. Okay, go ahead and try this one. You can pause it, check your answer, and the correct answer is B. Now, if you got that right and you feel confident, you can fast forward a little bit to the next example. I'll quickly go over this one too. So it's parallelogram, so area equals base times height. My base they give me here is 16 times my height, which of course they don't give me. So I've got to do a little math with the triangle situation here. I do have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. If this is 12, that means this side is also 12. So very similar to the one example we did together. So to get our height, we got to divide by root 2. So off to the side, my height equals my hypotenuse divided by root 2. Simplify. So that gives us 12 root 2 over 2, and then you can simplify this to simply 6 root 2. Okay, so 16 times my height over here, which is 6 root 2. Now, if it said give me an exact answer, you would multiply the 16 and the 6, and you would put 96 root 2. That's your exact answer. But your answer choices are, they're decimals, so rounded answers. So if you plug that in your calculator, you get approximately this answer. Okay, now go back to your little formula sheet wherever you're recording all your formulas. We're going to talk about the area of a trapezoid. So I would write area of a trapezoid, and this is the formula I want you guys to write down. That's base 1 plus base 2 all times the height divided by 2. So write that down. Let me kind of show you where this formula comes from. So if you have a trapezoid here, the formula basically just comes from the formula for area of a parallelogram, because if you take your trapezoid and you duplicate it, like you make 2 of them, so it looks like that, kind of flip it over and put it next to it, you do end up with a big parallelogram here. So to find the area of the parallelogram, you'd simply do the base, which is this whole thing, times the height. And that's basically what this formula is, except your base in this is this space and this space here, just right next to it. So the whole base, we would say, is base 1 plus base 2, both of them added together, times the height. Now the divided by 2 part is because we duplicated it. So once you divide by 2, that goes back to just the one trapezoid and